Today, the 49ers are in full intensity mode, with the backstage buzzing and decisions that could shape the heart of the season. An unexpected piece might show up in the trenches. An unlikely protagonist is changing the locker room's vibe. A long-awaited return now has a date with a catch, and the man with the call sheet seems to be enjoying the underdog role. Want to know what all of this means for the next game and the playoff race? You won't believe what we've got today. So take a seat, drop a like, and let's dive straight into the news. Ready? Because the tensest part is still coming. Inside the trenches, the red alert went off. The 49ers' IDL rotation lost stability with Kalia Davis's hand surgery and physical limitations elsewhere. When the middle of the defense wobbles, the entire playbook loses bite. That's why a veteran is climbing league trade block lists and invading our conversations. Shelby Harris, currently with the Cleveland Browns. There's no public report of talks between the sides, but the match is obvious. We have the need, he has the profile. And let's be honest, October doesn't forgive teams that hesitate. Harris brings exactly the toolkit Chris Kokorek values. He can line up at 3-tech and 4-eye, even show up as a 2-eye in sub-packages. He's got active hands to bat down passes, a solid anchor against the run, and disciplined gap control. At 33, he's not a savior, he's a stabilizer. In weeks when the roster is patched together, predictability is gold. The team needs someone to handle early downs and push the pocket on thirds so the edges can finish the job. He's plug and play inside our vertical gap attack philosophy. And with Davis out at least 2 weeks, the urgency isn't a narrative, it's a competitive necessity. The money doesn't get in the way. Harris is in the final year of a 2-year, $9 million deal signed in 2024, a contender-friendly number that doesn't mortgage 2026. Cleveland, meanwhile, has layered up inside. They brought in Maliak Collins, invested big in Mason Graham in the draft, and still have Mike Hall Jr. When the rotation gets younger and deeper, an expiring contract vet becomes currency. Add a 1-3 start, and the usual October let's test the market. And this is how rumors born of context take shape. The Browns could even see cap relief and room to accelerate the kid's development. What's the price? History points to a day 3 pick, 5th to 7th round, with conditions tied to snap share or production. No need to pay a future premium. In return, the Niners get useful snaps right away, ease the load on Jordan Elliott and Alfred Collins, and avoid dying inside on long drives. The impact won't be a headline, it's structural. Longer third downs for the opponent, less time of possession against, shorter fields for our offense to capitalize. That interior pressure that forces the QB to hitch and step back into the arms of our edges, it's exactly the kind of detail that flips one-score games. Of course, this is smoke, not fire. There's no confirmation of talks, and the clock is the enemy. If the Browns catch a winning streak, the window tightens or the price rises. If our front office accelerates, Harris could be on the field by week 6-7, handling 30% of the snaps immediately and growing as health returns. The fan base is split. Some want a trustworthy DT yesterday. Others prefer to save capital for CB/OL. But the central question is simple. Isn't raising the floor right now the smartest path? Is there a risk of a limited ceiling against elite QBs? Yes. But his batted passes and effort sacks kill third downs, and that changes game scripts. And if the deal doesn't happen, there's a plan B. More interior stunts, 5-man fronts to redistribute gaps, and patience to ride out 2 critical weeks without oversqueezing Elliott and Collins. And that wasn't even the most surprising part of the day. It was one of those nights you don't forget. Bright lights at SoFi Stadium, 49ers versus Rams, and the game felt written for drama. In the end, a 26-23 overtime win, with Mac Jones stepping in for Purdy and pushing the team to 4-1 on the season. What's most impressive isn't the win itself, but what it revealed about the moment this team is living, and especially the spirit of the man holding the baton for now. Because Jones isn't just filling space, he's changing the tone of the locker room. With 3 wins in 3 starts, Mac has already earned the fans' trust, many of whom were skeptical when his name surfaced in the offseason. The permanent backup narrative gave way to something bigger, the image of a QB who understands his role but still inspires teammates through humility. When asked, he made it clear, Brock is the starter. I'm here to win games for him, to keep the team alive until he's back. That line resonated not only with reporters but with the fan base, which sees a rare maturity. Instead of rivalry or tension, what we've got is loyalty and collective focus, and it's not just talk. On the field, Jones is showing efficiency. Against the Rams, he controlled the tempo, didn't panic when the defense tightened, and stayed cool in overtime. That steadies a team ravaged by injuries. Fans remembered 2020, when the season collapsed because the rotation couldn't withstand the attrition. This time, the picture's different. Even without Purdy, Kittle, Ayuk at times, and other key pieces, the team is finding ways to win. That fuels hope that the roster's depth is finally paying off. Sure, some question whether Jones' ceiling is high enough in heavyweight games. Can he handle an Eagles or Cowboys in a conference title? People ask on forums. But the reality is, what's asked of him right now isn't to be a star, it's to make sure the 49ers don't lose their rhythm. And on that, he's delivering in spades. More than that, he's helping keep the group's morale high. There's a difference between going into a mini-bye at 2-3 and going in at 4-1. The mood shifts and belief in the locker room stays strong. The media's shifting too. Analysts who initially framed Jones as a stopgap are highlighting his quiet leadership. That mix of performance and humility is stoking an interesting debate. How far does that loyalty go once Purdy is healthy? Not as an open controversy, but in the sense that maybe this team has two quarterbacks capable of winning games. Something that's a strength in October and can become a dilemma in January. For now, fans don't want to overthink it. The focus is the present. Another win, 4-1 overall, and the feeling that this group has the nerve to weather storms. And while many are fixated on the offense, what can't be ignored is how Mac Jones, as the real next man up, keeps alive the belief that this season can be special, no matter who's throwing the ball. Only the week's real twist isn't even that. George Kittle. Just saying the name already brings that blend of longing and anticipation. Since the Week 1 injury and the move to injured reserve, the question has been the same. When is he back? Now finally, there's a more concrete timeline. The catch? It's bittersweet. Week 7 against the Falcons looks most realistic, while Week 6 versus the Buccaneers has been all but ruled out by Kyle Shanahan. And if there's one thing Shanahan made clear, it's that rushing Kittle back isn't on the table. What's curious is how the coach plays with external expectations. Asked about it, he called Week 6 a long shot, a phrase that feels like psychological chess. Shanahan knows the betting world, and analysts track every detail, and he doesn't mind leaning into that theater. He's done it before, guiding Nick Mullins to unlikely wins or crafting off-script game plans in pivotal matchups. That interplay between narrative and execution seems to motivate him and might be exactly what keeps the 49ers competitive even without key pieces. Practically speaking, an extended Kittle absence was always on the radar. Ian Rappaport had pegged it at 3 to 5 weeks. Now that we've hit 4 games without him, the math checks. Fans feel the pain, of course. Kittle isn't just a pass catcher, he's a blocker who transforms the run game's efficiency. Without him, the offensive line has had to adjust rotations, and that limits fluidity. Even so, the team endured and not against pushovers. Beating the Rams on the road without Purdy, Kittle, Jennings, Pearsall, and even Ayuk is the kind of feat few would have believed before kickoff. Bottom line in Santa Clara, Jones steadies the ship the locker room belief holds, and Kittle's timetable clarifies the path ahead, without shortcuts. The next snap carries weight, but the compass is set. His return's impact goes beyond stats. It's emotional. It's the presence of a leader who juices the locker room, who infects teammates with energy, who celebrates like a fan in pads. Shanahan knows it, the staff knows it, and the fans feel the absence. Patience matters though. Coming back too soon and aggravating the injury could cost not just weeks, but the player's entire season. No one in San Francisco wants that risk. The good news is that while Kittle remains out, other names are trending back. Jennings and Pearsall have good chances for Week 6, giving the offense some oxygen. Ayuk is still uncertain but should return at some point. Purdy, meanwhile, is still dealing with turf toe, extending Mac Jones' run as the starter. Taken together, the story is one of resilience. A banged-up team that keeps finding ways to win and gets more dangerous as its stars trickle back. Fans, understandably, are restless. Social feeds are full of comments like, "I just want to see George jumping on dudes again," or "The run game isn't the same without him." That shows how the tight end is more than a cog in the machine, he's identity. A Week 7 return against the Falcons, if confirmed, promises not just a technical boost, but a symbolic one. The start of the phase where the 49ers finally reassemble, ready to surge toward the playoffs. But hold on, the week's biggest twist still isn't that. Kyle Shanahan. The name alone splits opinions, but one thing's undeniable. When the world doubts him, that's exactly when he rises. The 26-23 overtime win over the Rams was another chapter in that narrative. With a roster shredded by injuries, no Purdy, no Kittle, several other pieces missing, he drew up a plan good enough to pull off one of the most memorable regular season wins so far. It wasn't just a scoreboard triumph, it was a statement that the 49ers are still alive and dangerous. Shanahan's got a track record in moments like this. When collapse seemed inevitable, he answered with creativity, probing weaknesses and getting the max from whoever was available. Against the Rams, it showed Mac Jones was prepared to manage the offense calmly. The defense was positioned to force mistakes at decisive points, and the staff managed the clock with discipline. That ability to conjure something from nothing is exactly what drives critics crazy, because in the same package comes the other side. Losses in big games when expectations are sky high, like the Super Bowls against the Chiefs or the infamous 28-3. That's where the central question emerges. Shanahan is a genius in the underdog role, but how does he respond when he's the favorite? Fans know he seems to draw power when the media puts him on the hot seat. But now, at 4-1, the team is back in the spotlight, which sparks the doubt, can he keep the same hunger when he isn't treated like the outsider? That dilemma might define the season. Another point you can't miss, he lost massive names for 2025, like Nick Bosa, and still found ways to balance the defense. That kind of adaptation reinforces the idea Shanahan doesn't need every star to produce wins. At the same time, there's a risk surviving week to week can drain the collective battery before the playoffs. The challenge is to strike the balance between improvisation and consistency, between being the master of surprises and the coach who sustains favorite status over months. Fans are split. Many hail the win over the Rams as proof he deserves full credit. Others raise an eyebrow, noting that he's shined when doubted only to stumble once the hype builds. Online, debates are heated. I prefer him as the underdog. That's when he turns into a monster, versus show me he can sustain this into January. That debate keeps the fire lit and gives every win an extra weight of expectation. And while we wonder whether Shanahan will reinvent himself yet again or fall into the old trap of getting comfortable when praised, the season rolls on. Next week brings the Buccaneers a real maturity test. If the mindset matches what we saw against the Rams, expect another statement win. If not, the question mark only grows. Like it or not, Kyle Shanahan remains the maestro of a team that even battered insists on sounding like a contender. Now we get to find out which version we can trust. I says, Birdie, all we're doing let's find out which version we can trust. In the trenches, a veteran could stabilize the interior and free our edges. At the controls of the offense, Mac keeps the flame alive with humility and efficiency. Soon, Kittle reignites the run game and Shanahan, provoked, keeps pulling wins from improbable scripts. The question is, what would you do right now? Go aggressive for an IDL, stay patient until the health wave hits, or bet everything on the coach's mind. Drop your take below. If you enjoyed it, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share it with that friend who bleeds red and gold. See you next time.